You're listening to the 40 Fit Radio podcast, dedicated to the 40-plus community. Join us as we discuss the truth about fitness and health using science, reason, and the experiences of our host and content experts. Welcome to the 40 Fit Nation. Hey, welcome back to the 40 Fit Radio podcast, and welcome back to the 40 Fit Nation. Coach Trent.
Hey.
And Coach D are here, and we're going to talk about today training efficiency tips and what are some of the things that you can do as an individual involved in a fitness program. And we're going to talk specifically about strength training, but this could apply to aerobic cardiovascular training or body weight training, whatever you're doing. This could apply to really anything. These are just some basic tips, but we're gonna phrase it and work it around the idea that you're also going to be doing some strength training in that program design. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's talk a little bit. One of the things that we hear as coaches all the time, and that we see in our gyms, and we see it in Globo gyms when we go train outside of our home gym at Fort Worth Strength, is we see a lot of time wasted in the gym. Specifically, we have complaints from strength clients where our strength clients are taking, 2 hours to get their workouts in, or an hour and 45 minutes, and they're still in the novice progression. Or maybe they're a more advanced lifter or more advanced strength athlete, and they're taking, way over an hour and a half to get their work done, and they have three exercises. They have three primary movements.
Yeah, let's say they're doing Texas Method, and they're like, man, this workout's taking me 2.5 hours. It's killing me.
Right. And I think it's important for us to highlight, because we see that on some of the forums and some of the websites and some of the social media outlets that people are complaining that, man, this is crushing me and it's not very efficient. I remember when I used to own the CrossFit gyms, when CrossFit first started programming years ago, let's say 10 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, when you would go in and do your workout, you would do your warm up and your workout and your cool down, and people would be out of the gym in an hour. As programming evolved over time and gyms started programming more strength bias stuff on the front end or skill work, or the warm-up became a 20-minute warm-up, which is ridiculous, guys. It's stupid.
But I got a foam roll.
Yeah. And you have 55-minute foam rolling orgy. But, these workouts became an hour and a half, and we actually had to kind of reschedule our class structure because people just couldn't get it done in an hour. And then it became less efficient. The whole idea behind CrossFit was get in the door, get your work done, get out.
Right.
And that is one thing that I love about strength training, is that it can be very efficient. But we got to be volitional about it. We've got to be purposeful about it. And we got to decide ahead of time before going into the gym that we're going to get it done and get it done efficiently. So we're going to talk about some of those tips. And one of the first things is we talk about this concept of training efficiency. And we wanted to call this training tips to be more efficient in the gym or save time in the gym or whatever we want to call it. Because number one, we want you to look at the episode and listen to it and have some interest in it. But really what we're talking about is training efficiencies.
That's right.
And how to be more efficient. In everything in life, I think we want to be more efficient.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, all of us have, we got jobs, we've got careers to manage, we've got families to manage. Our time is spent, I don't want to say better elsewhere, but our time is equally spent in other places too, right? So we don't need to waste a bunch of time in the gym. And most of us aren't, 19 years old anymore, and we've got 3 hours to kill on a Tuesday night, right?
Yeah.
So we want to get things done, and we want to get more out of our training at the same time while we're saving time. Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing we were talking about, Trent, is that we want to make sure that the time that's spent in the gym is a good investment for a good investment for the return that we're getting. And as we get older, our client base, which is generally older to start with, probably most of our clients are in the 40s or up at our gym. And so they've all got something to go do.
That's right.
And so you think about it, if you spend, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which is pretty dense traffic-wise, it's not like LA or some areas.
Yeah, it took me an hour to get here this morning.
Yeah. I mean, for you to get, that's about 6, maybe 7 miles. It took you 30 minutes to go down Keller Parkway just to get through all the suburbia to get here. And so, when you figure out that most people are going to drive 15 to 30 minutes to get to the gym, they're going to work out an hour and a half. If this workout's taking an hour and a half, 2 hours, or at least an hour and a half, and then 30 minutes to go to their work, clean up and go to their work. You've already spent at least 2.5 hours towards workout endeavors.
Right.
That's too long. It's just too long. So now, as you get further in your training and things get harder and harder and harder, the general rule of thumb is that it might take more time, and we're going to talk about why that is.
That's right. Yeah.
But we still can be efficient and maximize that time.
Yeah. By the time you get to the point where you legit need to be spending more than 2 hours in a workout in the gym, you'll have already made the decision at that point that you're a competitor and that this is something that takes priority in your life.
Right.
If it doesn't, you'll never need to worry about it.
Right. Or you're just a bro and you want to look at your biceps for an hour.
So you get 20 sets of hammer curls.
Yeah, exactly. So
get the pump.
They'll pump you up. It's kind of ridiculous. But okay, so the first tip that we have is have your log ready. Have your training program written out in writing on an app. Use the Starting Strength app. Use some other type of app. You could be with an online coach, and so you're looking at your online coaching platform, software platform, whatever it is. I recommend a composition book. They're $1. They're $1.
And they look cool.
Yeah, get you a composition book. That's what Trent and I use for our own training. I use an app sometimes too. I use a Starting Strength app sometimes too. But have your training written out. Know what you're going to do ahead of time. And if you want to be really efficient, if you know you've got warm-up sets that you have to pre-calculate, either take those warm-up sets and calculate those ahead of time. Just do the math and write them down so you're not having to do it on the fly in the gym, or use an app that will do it for you.
Right.
Then that way in between sets, you're getting your work done. And you've got everything written out and you know what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. Have a plan. That's the goal. Have a plan. How many things in life that we don't have a plan? I hate it when you see people go into the gyms and they go into the gym and they're just going to do what they do that day.
Yeah, you just kind of look around. I mean, I've been there before.
Hey, I think I'll do some lat pull downs today.
Yeah, you just look across the sea of machines. Yeah, the lat pull down's open.
Yeah.
I guess I'm doing lat pull downs.
Yeah. I'm going to do some lateral flies because the lateral fly machine's open. And look, the leg press came open. I think I'll do some leg presses today. And that, folks, hey, that's better than not doing anything, but that's basically exercising.
Right.
It's not scientific in regards to the results you're going to receive from it, and it's not linear in its nature. It's not progressive in regards to moving from one step to the next and getting stronger over time. So,
and I think an important thing about getting your log ready, getting your gear ready, and knowing what you're going to do before you put your knee sleeves on, before you put your shoes on, is that it puts you in a good frame of mind, right? It frames your mind around, okay, you start visualizing, like, this is what I'm going to squat today. Okay, this is the deadlift number I get hit. Oh, that's a heavy number today. Yeah. Okay, all right, let's go. Yeah. And I've found when I do that my training sessions take less time. It just kind of happens that when I walk in the gym ready to go, that my workouts take less time than when I drag myself in the gym and I'm like, what am I doing today? Let me look at my log. I forgot to put my knee sleeves on. Let me take my shoes off again. Yeah. Knee sleeves on. Lo and behold, when I do that on those kind of days, I end up, dragging in between sets and taking a long time. So getting yourself in the right frame of mind does a lot for efficiency.
Well, and that brings up tip number 2. Tip number 2 is perfect lead in, Trent. I couldn't have scripted it better. Have we talked about having your log ready and having, all your work sets calculated and everything. Tip number 2 is make the mental decision to train no matter how you feel and to train efficiently. Make the mental decision to do the hard. Sometimes, like you're saying, we come in and we're just dragging and we know, especially when you're at the top of an LP, when you're at the top of your strength cycle, it's daunting to know that you've got to go in that day and you got to crush it again.
Yeah, it sucks.
And every workout is a crush. Every workout is hard. Every workout is no longer easy like when you're a novice. I mean, you think it's hard when you're a novice until you get to be an intermediate or at the end of the novice progression.
Right.
And then you're like, oh crap, this is really hard. And so, but just make the mental decision to go out in, and no matter how you feel, even though you feel poorly, just do your work. Do your work. I was talking to a client yesterday that's a patient of mine that is also an online coaching client. And And basically, one of the online coaches did a one-on-one with him. Then he referred him to me to deal with some back pain, and so I saw him as a patient in my clinic. And so we've kind of been working with this guy, me as a doctor of PT, and the strength coach as his coach, doing all his programming. So we talk together on him and do his program planning and working through his problems. But one of the things I notice about him is that he's just not very stoic. And I think there's some value for men and women both to develop a little bit more stoicism. And we might even do a podcast on that and the value of that. And I don't mean being unemotional, but I just mean don't let your feelings drive how hard you're going to work or not that day. Do the work. I don't feel like I should train today. And then you crush it and you get a PR and you feel great at the end of the workout. Don't worry about the fact that you feel great at the end of the workout, and don't worry about the fact that you don't feel good before the workout. Just do the work.
Yeah, I'm going to steal a page from our good friend Scott Hambrick.
Yeah.
Right? So Scott Hambrick, he runs Online Great Books. He's also on Barbell Logic podcast. He talks about this a lot. This is an Aristotelian concept, right?
Sure.
Aristotle basically said, if you want to become something, you must do things which align with that thing you want to become, right? So if you're not a stoic person and you want to become more stoic when it comes to doing hard things, you have to do hard things. You cannot just say, I'm going to be stoic today. Right. The only way you acquire that virtue is by doing it, right? And so
it's great.
It's just showing up literally is the way to do that. So it's like if you're a coward and you want to do brave things,
be brave. Do brave things.
Or if you want to be brave,
yourself.
You have to go do brave things.
Yeah,
that's right.
Challenge yourself to be put into situations.
Absent of doing the thing, you can't have the virtue.
Well, you know what's interesting here, another discussion, we could go way offline. I love this though, is that in prior generations or in years past, the act of life created those traits, those character traits.
Exactly.
And now that we have all the creature comforts that we do, especially in urban or suburban society, there's nothing to help to generate or develop those qualities because our lives are not, we're not interacting in that manner with our surroundings and our lifestyle anymore. And so the qualities of, integrity and diligence and hard work and honesty and all these different qualities that we have, long suffering and patience and all these different things, we're not developing those as humans to a certain level because we're not, our life doesn't require that of us as much because of all the modern technologies and creature comforts. And, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I think this is something we just cannot not talk about because, it's like, why do I on my vacation week want to spend all week working on the ranch? And why do I want to go out and cut down briars all day long or sit in a tractor all day long? That's work.
Right.
But to me, the work in and of itself has fulfillment.
Yeah.
It has value in and of itself. It's something anyone else could do. It's not that hard to do. It is boring sometimes, but it has value in what it does to your mind, what it does to your spirit, what it does to your body. And being able to do hard things just makes your training easier. So make a mental mindset before you go into the gym to be ready to train and to accept the hard and to train efficiently no matter how you feel. I think that's important.
Yeah.
The next thing we were going to talk about is when you are in your training, we get a lot of questions from lifters and clients and trainees and people who follow our podcast. Basically, hey, how much rest is enough in between strength sets? Now, I'm not talking about endurance training or anything else. I'm talking about weightlifting.
Yeah.
When we're talking about weightlifting, we're talking about the squat, the press, the deadlift. You could even throw, the bench press. You could even throw chins in here. You could throw weighted push-ups, weighted dips, barbell rows, these other exercises that we do. And then you could also probably throw in there power cleans, more explosive movements, or Olympic lifting movements.
Yeah.
Like
high skill, high
clean and
power.
snatch.
Yep.
Even a little bit more time just because of the neurological requirements there. But still, how much rest is enough? I've got clients that rest, they're resting 7-8 minutes between warm-up sets. So
right.
So the data is the science tells us basically this. we are using all metabolic pathways when we're training in strength training. When we're doing weightlifting, we're using all the metabolic pathways. We are primarily using, though, the phosphocreatine system, glycolysis, to generate ATP for energy for your muscle cells to be able to perform work, to either produce power or strength, okay? And so when we're doing that, I get lots of questions from our clients, how much rest is enough? About 3 minutes is the lower end threshold for the amount of time that it takes to reproduce the ATP needed by your muscle cells to be able to perform work again. 3 minutes. So during your warm-up sets, and let me talk about this. So 3 minutes would be the minimum during your working sets, okay? The maximum would probably be somewhere between probably 6 to 7 minutes, maximum. Anything over 7 minutes, you're just playing with it.
Right. It's not going to get any easier.
No, it's not going to get any easier. And actually, as an older lifter, you're going to cool down and you're going to start to get to where the sets get harder. The sets should get easier in regards to how they feel. Maybe not that the grind is easier, but the feeling in your joints, the connective tissue. Usually set 3, the first couple reps of set 3 feel really, really good to me, and the end of set 2 feels really, really good.
Right,
If I'm
you're
doing 3
finally
sets.
getting loosened up and get some blood flow through.
Yeah, but the longer you
tissues.
rest, the more inefficient you are, and the more likely you're going to cool down, and you haven't really done anything for your body other than you gave yourself a mental rest. So 3 minutes on the short end, probably 7 minutes on the long end when you're talking about strength training.
Yeah, so that would be at the very end of your LP. Let's say you'd be resting 7 minutes.
Yeah,
so you're just
exactly.
everything's a big PR. You got butterflies in your stomach. Going up to approach those weights. So but when it's just a regular old training session, kind of in the middle of your
3
LP,
minutes.
it's just
3 minutes. I mean, I can honestly say I've been at the top of the training model that I had prior to nationals, and I was resting an average of 3 to 5 minutes between sets, and 5 minutes is plenty for me. It's plenty.
Now we've been talking about working sets.
Right,
not warm-ups.
Right.
And
warm-ups.
I see this is a common issue with people that see the 3 to 5 minutes or 3 to 7 minutes recommendation, and they apply that to their warm-up sets too.
Right.
No. Don't burn a lot of time getting through your warm-ups. Warm-ups should look like this, right? So first set, empty bar. Get underneath that bar. Maybe you stretch your shoulders a little bit if they need it. Okay. Unrack it. Boom. Set of 5. Rack the bar. Shake out your limbs a little bit.
Walk away, get a drink of water.
Yeah, get a sip of water.
Hit again.
Hit it right again. That should take no more than like 10 seconds in between those 2 sets, right? And then as you add weight to your warm-ups, the only rest you should have is however long it takes you to stack the weights on that bar.
Exactly.
Right? That's it.
Yeah. Or if you've got a training partner.
Yeah, if you got a training partner, let them do it.
Perfect.
Bam. Bam. Knock them out. You don't need the rest. It's just bleeding time off of good training. And
that's at a low enough weight level that basically you're increasing blood flow, you're increasing tissue, elasticity, expansibility, I guess you would say. Motion's lotion, right? You're getting the body moving, lubricated. You're going to do that better just getting the work done. I also find that I'll go over and get on our Echo, our Rogue Echo bikes and just do 2 minutes of constant work at a moderate pace. It's just 2 minutes of time. And I can tell that I can go through my warm-up sets faster because my goal is to get to the working sets. I don't want to spend a lot of time in the warm-up sets. Now, guys, we're talking about at some point where your warm-up sets, like my warm-up sets, I'm in the mid to high 3s in warm-up sets sometimes.
Right.
So I'm not talking about lightweight here. It's not like we're talking about, your warm-up sets are, 140 pounds or whatever. That's the same principles apply. If your warm-up sets are 450, but if you're squatting in the 600s, then you should be getting them done.
That's right.
You should be getting them done.
Now, I'll take maybe a couple minutes rest in between maybe my last warm-up set and my work. And so my last set of 2, or I'll usually hit some singles before. If I'm squatting really heavy, then I'll hit some singles beforehand. I might take a minute or 2.
Yeah, I'll probably go ahead and just take that 3-minute rest.
Sure, yeah. But that's at the very end of my warm-ups. On all the warm-up sets getting up to that point, no, just knock them out.
Right, and if you do the math on it, your work cycle is very, very short here. Strength training is basically interval training for strength.
Right.
Strength training is interval training.
Yeah, we were talking about this
You've got a work
earlier.
cycle.
How long does it take to do a set of 5?
Yeah.
Heavy set of 5.
I don't know. I mean,
20 seconds?
For me, a heavy set of 5, because I don't come up to the top and stand there and think about it long. I try to get it done. I would say it probably takes me somewhere between 18 to 20 seconds max.
Yeah.
Max.
If you're having an existential crisis under the bar, maybe 30 seconds.
Right. But I'm not going to stand up. The more I stand up and think about it, the longer I have to hold that weight, the heavier it gets.
Yes.
I want to come up to the top, go into full lockout, breathe out, exhale, take a breath in, inhale, and boom, hit it again. I did 3 sets of 8 last night with squat with over 300, and I really don't rest much at the top. I come to the top. In fact, the first couple reps are on the same breath.
Yeah.
The same held breath. So we just get it done, and a lot of that is just doing the hard. So by doing this alone, get on your phone, that's fine, but keep a timer. Keep a timer on your phone or watch a clock. I recommend a timer on your phone, and you just hit the start button each time. Be disciplined about that. And you'll be surprised how you'll shave 15 to 20 minutes right off the top of your workout just being efficient. That's right. Your buddy comes in, your girlfriend comes in, your wife comes in, whatever, and you're talking to them, you're hanging out. Before you know it, you spent 10 minutes talking.
Exactly.
And you really hit,
Instagram, it's
exactly.
like, I'm just going to check Instagram real quick. And then, before you know it, it's not been 3 minutes, it's been 12 minutes.
Exactly. So be efficient with your rest. And remember that about 3 to 7 minutes is what you actually physically need. 7 minutes on the long end, 3 minutes on the minimum short end. On warm-up sets, however long it takes to reload the bar with your warm-up weight. And then at the end of your warm-up cycle, maybe a little bit longer rest to get ready to
One
go.
other thing about warm-ups, and we can move on. I see a lot of people like calculating their warm-ups to 5 significant figures, I never use change plates
anymore.
I use 45s and 25. Now, obviously, if you're on the lower end of your working weight, if your working load's 80 pounds, you're going to need to use the
smaller
change plates.
denomination,
and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're doing, let's say, 225, you shouldn't have to pull out the change plates for your warm-ups, right? Your warm-up should maybe look like empty bar, 95 pounds, 135, then 185, 225, go. Notice I only had to use the bar in 25 plates or 45 plates. I didn't have to pull out the 10s. I didn't have to pull out 5s. If you're pulling out the micro plates so that you can get 247.5 pounds for your warm-ups, because that's what 90% is or whatever.
You're wasting time.
No, it's not. There's no science behind the warm-ups. You just pick intervals that sort of make sense, right?
It's a warm-up. And I think you neurologically get more. I think you mentally, neurologically, and physically get ready for work by doing your warm-ups. But my warm-up routine has pretty much stayed the same when I was lifting in the low 3s and then doing squats in the 4s and mid 4s.
That's right. Yeah, I just add some singles so that I'm not making a huge jump
top,
at the very end.
I add the singles.
But the way up is exactly the same. I'm the same way.
You may do the same thing. I go from 135 to 225.
Yeah. 135, 225, 275.
Yeah.
315, and then or 335.
That's
and
right.
Then maybe somewhere between.
And like you said earlier, if you're lifting in smaller denominations or bigger denominations, then do what works from a scaling standpoint. Warm-ups should equally break up the distance between the empty bar and your working load. It should just equally break it up in a 5, 3, 2, and maybe a couple singles, and you've got your 2 empty bar sets. So 2 empty bar sets of 5, then a 5, 3, 2, and then maybe a couple singles as you get into heavier loads. Because I like to break it that last double. If I've got 60 more pounds to make up, I might do a heavy single in the middle.
That's right.
And then hit the top.
That way, you got the feeling on your shoulders before you get to the heavy sets. Yeah, exactly.
And so, rest cycle's important, guys. You're wasting a lot of time out there if you're spending more than 3 to 7 minutes, and you can look that up in the literature. We might put a couple links in the show notes to some science articles that show that that's about the amount of time on the long end, short end and the long end to recover in the glycolysis cycle or to recover in the Krebs cycle. So, and we realize that you're upregulating the Krebs cycle when you're doing strength training, and it's interacting too, but you're mostly running off of glycolysis. Now, if your warm-ups become shorter, here's what I would postulate, theorize. We were talking about, and we ought to have a podcast on this and get a metabolic scientist in here. And I happen to know one who did his PhD in mitochondrial science. If you shorten your warm-ups to the minimum requirement or to a lower level, and you're still efficient and you're still being you're still able to hit your loads like you thought you should,
Right.
and you don't feel unrecovered and ready to go, are you not upregulating potentially more of the oxidative pathway more because you now are doing a shorter rest cycle with the same work cycle? So now you're doing more work in less amount of time.
Okay.
So are you upregulating the oxidative cycle because you're not allowing as much rest and allowing, it to cycle back down enough?
Yeah.
And so it makes me wonder, is that the case?
Right. So, and you said warm-ups earlier. I think you mean work sets, right?
Yes,
So if you spent 3 minutes on your work sets instead of 7, maybe you're not fully recharging all of the ATP during that creatine phosphate cycle, or maybe not quite, and so your body's upregulating the other energy pathways in anticipation of needing those.
Well, here's a good example.
They're doing it more than they would if you.
Let's say you did work set 1 and you rested 3 to 5 minutes in between work set 1 and work set 2. I normally don't rest more than 3 to 5 minutes max. That's kind of my normal programming model.
Right.
And so I'm ready to rock and roll. 5 minutes, that's a long rest for me. So I'm ready to go. So it begs the question, are you not upregulating all of the metabolic pathways more? Obviously, glycolysis is already recovered at about the 3 minute mark, or a little bit more.
Right.
So, but still, obviously it takes longer with the Krebs cycle, and get in the oxidative pathway. But are you not upregulating those other systems better? And is that also not more effective for the carryover that we get between strength work and endurance work?
Right.
Is that not more effective? So I don't know the answer to that question. I am not a metabolic scientist, but I do know one, and we ought to have him on the podcast about this very topic.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Well, I think we hit most of the points here.
Hang on. We got one more.
That's right.
Exercise program design. And what we do when we're doing strength training is we'll have a big mover, like a big compound mover, like the squat. And this is how Starting Strength has designed it in the Starting Strength in the Blue Book. In the A program, you do squat, press, and deadlift. In the B program, you do squat, bench press, and deadlift. So if you'll notice there, you've got the big compound mover of the legs and the trunk, so the squat. And then after that, you do your press or your bench press. So you use mostly upper body mass.
Right.
Even though the press uses the entire kinetic chain, the whole body, you're using mostly the upper body.
Yep.
And the hip drive that we get if you do the 2.0 press. And then you hit the deadlift again. So you've allowed your legs to rest some, and you're ready to rock and roll. Because the weight that you're doing in the press nowhere near approaches the amount of weight that's the max effort for your legs. So you're getting a recovery there.
Resting that back too. When you're doing low bar squats and they get heavy, it's a huge back exercise too.
Exactly.
So you get a little recovery before
the press and even the bench press even more so, but the press is mostly a vertical exercise. There's compression force on the spine and traction force on the arms. And so, you're right there in the neutral position or this upright position. So it's a lot easier. So program design really matters too, so that you can be efficient, you can feel recovered. So
now there's a good point here. If we go back to warm-ups, now that we've covered exercise selection or exercise design, right? So if you've squatted and then you've pressed and now it's time to deadlift, you're pretty warm at that point, right?
Yeah.
So
as long as the rest cycle between those movements is not
that's right.
long.
As long as you're not resting 10 minutes in between your work sets, you're pretty warm at that point.
Yeah.
So you really don't need to spend a lot of time warming up for deadlifts. Do only as much as necessary. For me, I think if you are just starting out, you should do a little bit longer warm-up cycle on your deadlifts because you're still learning the movement and you want to groove good technique, good habits. But once you know the technique, this is what my deadlift warm-up looks like. I do a set of 5 with 135. I do a set of 3 at 225. I do a set of 2 at 2 or 3 at 315. And then I do a single if necessary in between, and then I pull my work set.
Sure.
I do maybe a few warm-up sets because my back's already warm, my legs are warm, my arms are warm. I don't really need a lot. I just need to kind of make sure I'm dialed in, my grip's good. Okay, doing everything I need to do. Bam.
Yep.
So don't feel like you need to do empty bar, add weight.
As an example, I do a very similar thing. If I'm deadlifting in the mid to high 4s, I do one set of 5 with 135. I do another set of 5 with 225. I go to 315. I do a set of 3. I go to 375. I do a set of 2. I go to 405. I'll do a set of 2 or a single, and then I hit my load.
Yeah.
And so, we just boom, 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 boom. And I don't do any empty bar sets, even though I think if you're lifting in lower levels, and it's good to get into a routine and to make sure that you're developing habits. So sometimes with new trainees, I always recommend that they do their warm-up sets fairly methodically so that they're just getting in the habit of doing warm-up sets.
That's
Eventually, once you become a little bit more seasoned and you're a little bit more experienced at it, you'll feel that you're warmed up and you can rock and roll and save some time.
That's right.
So,
and just watch out for, this has happened to me a couple of times, where that's my normal warm-up progression.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes schedules just get crazy.
Sure,
I have to go
sure.
and I have to make up my warm-ups or my deadlifts the next day. Take more time to warm up that day.
Yeah, exactly.
I've
it's
tweaked
not
my
the
back
same.
A couple times because I'm
Yeah.
like, I just used to, just throw it on and go. It's
No,
but I forgot I haven't squatted and deadlift or pressed before that. So
No, that's not the same. That's a totally different deal. So, the last two things would be have your gear ready and have everything ready the night before. Make sure that your sleeves are in there, your lifters, whatever you're going to use for training, straps, chains, whatever you've got that you take to the gym with you. Make sure it's ready. And also along with that, in regards to organization, is try to schedule your training time at a time where the gym's just less busy, to where if you can't, we get it.
Yeah.
Schedules change. If you're working out early in the morning, there might be a lot of people there. If you're going to go to the gym at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, there's going to be a lot of people there. And so, but try to schedule your time in the gym, in your fitness program at a time where there's just going to be less people there. Number one, you're going to have better access to equipment. And number two, you're going to be less likely to just stand around and talk to people. So, ultimately, we want to get stronger and get our stuff done.
Yeah, or alternatively, get a home gym.
Yeah, man.
Don't have to talk to people. Don't have to wait on equipment.
Yep.
And you can use all the equipment you want.
In the ladies class yesterday, when I got here about 6 to do the ladies class, and we did a podcast with our ladies, which is coming up soon. It's going to be called Ladies Night, and you got to hear that podcast. It's about ladies and training, and what we do here at our gym, and just talking to our ladies about what strength training has done for them. But Brad was here last night, making up his workout from the morning because he couldn't train in the morning. I said, "Isn't it great that you have key code access to that door, and you basically got the racks and everything waiting for you and ready to go?" He's like, "Yeah, it's awesome."
Yeah.
It's like he has a home gym. He has his own personal gym with a very small select group of people, and that's the value too of joining a really small private barbell gym that also might have some conditioning equipment and some access to equipment. Yeah.
When Brad rolls up to the gym, nobody's curling in the squat rack.
No,
when he's getting ready to warm up.
Exactly. Nothing stupid's going on. So, but you had a couple things too that you wanted to talk about training efficiency tips.
Yeah, I think we've covered the big stuff. A couple of other notes, and this is really, I think, a separate topic. We've covered it a little bit before when we did our foundation series. But number one, don't do unnecessary stuff. We need to always remember when it comes to training efficiency that we're in the gym to train, not to practice, right? So we shouldn't be spending time doing sports-specific, quote-unquote, stuff, right? Do the general exercises that can get you the most bang for your buck. Squat, press, deadlift, bench press. Do your accessory movements as needed, but there's no reason to add a bunch of unnecessary stuff to the program. There's a reason that starting strength doesn't have a bunch of curls and dips and push-ups and flies built into the progression.
Every single training, right.
Because they're not necessary. Just spend your time adding weight to the bar first, right? Yeah. And then down the road, if you want to specialize in something, maybe those accessories will become necessary, but don't add them when they're not necessary, because we're training here. We're not just exercising. We're not doing it for fun. We're doing it for results, right?
Yeah, and like you said, there's the concept of training, exercise, and competition.
That's right.
And we'll talk about that even more in another podcast, and just separating the difference between those two. A lot of people confuse those things.
Yes.
And so they're what they think is training is really exercise, and what they think is, and sometimes their exercise actually is kind of more like competition.
Right,
and
right.
I noticed specifically that when I owned my CrossFit gyms, every exercise session, instead of being training like it should be, became competition.
Right.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That has its own suite of problems. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. So yeah, that's great insight, Trent. Great.
Yeah. One example there is I just pulled my bike out, getting the tires switched out, and cleaning everything up because I just like to joyride.
Yeah, cool.
I don't train on the bike or anything. But let's say you do. Let's say you are a cyclist. When you come in the gym for strength training, do strength training. Squat. Don't do a bunch of exercises that you think would simulate riding the bike, because your time is best spent practicing on the bike. Right. So if you want to get better at cycling, you need to cycle. Right. Period. If you want to get stronger, you need to do strength training. So separate those two and get your training done as fast as you can in the gym so that you can spend more time outside riding on your bike, man. Getting better at it.
Yeah, doing what we want to do, which is living life. That's why we do this. Yep. All right, man.
All right. Well, that's,
man, thanks for being here today on the 40 Fit Radio podcast, and thanks for joining the 40 Fit Nation. If you want to connect with us on the social media outlets, then you can find us on Facebook at 40 Fit Masters Community Group. You can also find us on Instagram at 40 Fit Radio, Coach Trent at Marmalade Cream, myself at DL Deaton. You can go to our website at 40fit.com, and you can click on the 40 Fit Radio tab and find us there. If you'd like to send us an email, send it to info@40fit.com. And it's great to have you guys today. And hey, get out into the gym, but let's be efficient with your time and get them done so you can go out and live life. Thanks, guys.
Go get your work done.